Hey everyone, a lot of people have been asking me lately about stem cells. As you know, I have pain all over my body, which if you've watched any of my other videos, you would know about. So I've heard once or twice people mentioning stem cells to me and if I thought about using them. Now at first I wasn't too receptive to the idea because of the high cost. Stem cell treatments can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 depending on the treatment and where you go. But after considering it more and more people bring the idea to me and wanting to get feedback on it, I thought I would be the perfect specimen to try it on, because if it worked on me, most likely it would work on you. And it's tough to part with that much money, but if it actually works, then it's probably money well spent. The problem is you don't want to spend that much money and then not get results. So I thought that I would be the perfect person to try it on and give feedback to you. So if you're not familiar with stem cells, what they are is they're cells in the body that become other things or go to damaged areas and fix those areas. So if you have injuries, stem cell treatment could be a good option. Now there are a few different types of stem cell treatment. There's adipose stem cells, which are derived from your own body's fat and then injected back into you. There's also bone marrow, which they take your own bone marrow, turn that into stem cells, and then inject that back in you. And then there's umbilical cord stem cells, which obviously don't come from you. These would be donated from somebody else. Now, in considering which stem cell treatment to go with, for me it seemed like the umbilical cord was without question the way to go. And that's primarily because if they're taking my own stem cells, either through the adipose or the bone marrow, and I have weak stem cells, which right now appears to be the case since I have a bunch of injuries that aren't healing, and then they're injecting these weak stem cells back into me, it seems like it's probably not going to work. Whereas the umbilical cord stem cells are fresh, just born stem cells, which have the most healing power possible of all stem cells. You know, I would have 46-year-old stem cells and significantly weaker than a freshly born stem cell. So for me, the umbilical cord stem cell was really the way to go and the only decision that I wanted. Now, in considering stem cell treatment, another big decision was on which place I wanted to go to. So I only considered the top places in the world. Now in the United States, the FDA makes it very difficult to get stem cells because it has to be approved, and it's not approved to get large quantities here. So you really have to go to another country where they're doing some amazing things. So the first place I considered was a place called GeoStar in Mexico. Now they do both the adipose-derived stem cells as well as umbilical cords, so they do both. And I did consider them, and their price starts at about $15,000 and goes up from there for a treatment like I would want. And that was about 120 million stem cells. So I did consider that location. Another one I considered was Celtex, which is also in Mexico. And they only do the adipose-derived stem cells, which is the stem cells derived from fat. So I didn't want to take my own fat stem cells and inject them back into me. So this was one that I really didn't want to do. Next we have Regenerex in the Cayman Islands. Now this is a facility that does bone marrow. So they take your own bone marrow and then they inject it back into you. Now this place charges $19,500 just from one joint. So a lot of places have an IV and they just hook an IV into you and they inject the stem cells and it goes throughout your body. In addition, you can also do local areas. So Regenerex doesn't have the IV. They only do local, and it's very expensive. So it's nearly $20,000 for one joint, and then it's $3,000 for every joint after that. So if you have several injuries, it can get real expensive quite quickly. In addition, the bone marrow was not something that I wanted to do. And when I read reviews on Regenerex, there was an arsenal of bad reviews and people complaining it didn't work, which I didn't really like. And then I thought the sales staff was actually quite rude. When, all the other places that I talked to, and I talked to several, they couldn't wait to call me and try to talk me into getting the stem cell treatment. But at Regenerex, for them to call me to explain why I should get the stem cell treatment, they wanted to charge me $200. So not only would I have to go pay for the stem cell treatment, I have to pay them $200 to talk me into it. So it was a real easy decision to not go to Regenerex. The next place on the list that I considered was DVC Stem in the Cayman Islands. This is a place that does umbilical cord stem cells, and they only do it through the IV. They give you 300 million stem cells. Now, this was the most of any place I considered. So 300 million is quite a lot, and it comes with a reasonable price tag of $20,000. So I definitely considered DVC Stem, but for the time being, let's put a pause on that one, and I'll go to the next one I considered, which was BioAccelerator, which is in Colombia, and also an umbilical cord stem cell facility. So BioAccelerator starts at $16,000, and they give you 150 million stem cells. So it's 4,000 less than DVC Stem, but you only get half as many stem cells. So, and it's through the IV, same type of procedure. And then in addition, another place that does the umbilical cord stem cells through the IV is the Stem Cell Institute in Panama. Now this place charges, it starts at $23,150, and then it's $375 for any type of local injection. So out of all the places that do the IV stem cell treatment, this place was the most expensive. And they only give you 120 million stem cells. So between DVC Stem, BioAccelerator, and the Stem Cell Institute, they all do something very similar, whereas the Stem Cell Institute in Panama charges the most and gives you the least amount of stem cells. Okay, so I had it narrowed down to these three, and it was a little bit of a struggle to figure out which one I wanted to go with. But in the end, I decided to go with the Stem Cell Institute in Panama, which, if you remember, was the most expensive and gave you the least amount of stem cells. And I'll tell you why I decided to go with them. For one, the Stem Cell Institute has been doing it the longest, so they know what they're doing more than anyone else. They also, at least I've heard them talk about something called golden cells. Now, when they first started out, people would get stem cell treatments, and sometimes they got a lot better, and sometimes they just got a little bit better. And according to the Stem Cell Institute, that's because they have figured out what is called golden cells. And these golden cells are really the stem cells that you need that go in and fix your body. So even though they're giving you less stem cells on the other place, they're giving you these golden cells. So that was a big plus for them. As far as BioAccelerator goes, I don't know that they're not giving you the golden cells, but they are the newest place within this stem cell business. I don't know much about them, but the fact that they're brand new makes me believe they're not quite there with their research yet. So that's really the reason why I decided to eliminate BioAccelerator in Colombia. The second one I almost went with was DVC Stem in the Cayman Islands, who charges $20,000 and gives you 300 million stem cells. Now, I also don't know that if they figured out the golden cell system or not, but what I didn't like about DVC Stem was that they don't do any local injections. So if I wanted to get local injections, that's not an option. But in addition to that, they do a whole bunch of different things. So, the Stem Cell Institute in Panama, they only do stem cells. That's all they do. Whereas DVC, they do like a whole bunch of different types of therapy things for people. And so I don't really want somebody who does a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I want someone that only does one thing. And the Stem Cell Institute in Panama only does one thing, and that's stem cells. The other reason why I decided to go with the Stem Cell Institute in Panama is because no matter what, it's a lot of money. And if I did, say, go to DVC or BioAccelerator and then I didn't have a positive result, then I would feel like, okay, well, I should have just went to the Stem Cell Institute. I totally blew it. I made a bad decision. But if I go to Panama and go to the Stem Cell Institute and it doesn't work, I'm not going to have the feeling like, oh, I should have went to this other place that's like brand new. I'm not going to have that feeling. I'm going to be like, okay, well, I tried stem cells and it didn't work. Let's move on to something else. So I decided on the Stem Cell Institute in Panama. I'm going to go ahead and get the treatment, and you know my reasons why I picked them. And I will let you know how it does, and I will let you know what else happens on my journey for stem cells.